Welcome to Da Vinci's Discourse, where the minds of today's most innovative entrepreneurs are unveiled and explored. And my name is Kyle Campbell, your guide on this journey into the depths of the entrepreneurial psyche. So sit back, relax, and get ready to dive into the minds of the greats. This is Da Vinci's Discourse. If somebody were to ask at a coffee shop or a bar, who are you? What would you tell them?
Well, today I'm a permanent equity investor. I invest money in businesses and I live on the dividends. And I use my expertise, my money. I use my money. I use my expertise, and I use my network to get into partnership with somebody. They run the business, and I just simply sit in the background and take the dividends out of it. That's me where I am today.
Must be nice. There you go. So
Where
how
I,
did you,
where I, where I came from is very simple. I was born a Kiwi, born a New Zealander. I spent
yeah,
quite a number of years, 40 odd years in Australia, and owned some significant businesses there. And for the last 12 years, I've lived in the Philippines. There's great business opportunities here, and that's why I'm in the Philippines today.
beautiful. A lot of our team is actually in the Philippines. Great people, their English is awesome. It's a good spot. I haven't been to the Philippines myself. Thailand is the only place in Southeast Asia I've been, and I love it, man. It's a big change from New Zealand and Australia, and I think there's a lot more to say with the relaxed vibes, and it's beautiful, man. So, how did you get into? Let's go back through the story a little bit because I'm curious. How did you get
Mm.
into what you're doing now? Because you need capital to be able to do that. So how did you amass the capital to be able to do what you're doing right now?
Um, Look, I dispute whether you need capital sometimes. I've bootstrapped most of my businesses, so most of them have started from next to nothing. I'm really big into the service business. Anything to do with service, I find I do that because it's easier. I know how to sell a service and I know how to bootstrap a service, so I've always had more success in that area. Look back in my early 20s, I got into business like most people. Got into business buying and selling things. 6 years later, I was working 90 hours a week, 7 days a week, earning fractionally more than my staff for only working 40 hours a week, and worked out that that's not really what I wanted out of life. In fact, I hadn't thought very much what I wanted out of life, and sat down and did some navel gazing. And in my very early 30s, I worked out that I'm really about lifestyle. I have a specific lifestyle in my mind that I want to achieve, and that's where what I was after. I never thought that through. And so when I thought about that lifestyle, and yes, it involved nice cars and big boats and big houses and a jet style live anywhere in the world lifestyle, and that was my dream. I worked out that I really need to earn a crap load of money every week and not have to work. The word have to, don't have to. In other words, when I wake up in the morning, I can do whatever I want. So with that in mind, I started to look at business differently. I looked at the business I was in at the time and realized that I couldn't scale it up. I couldn't get past a couple of barriers that meant that I had to be there. And if I had to be there, it wasn't really what I wanted. So with the idea that I just want to earn a shitload of money and not have to work, I started looking for other business ideas. And by accident, I discovered that local direct door-to-door furniture removals or moving wasn't being done very well in those days. This is 40 odd years ago. And there was a better way of doing it, which was the hourly rate local moving thing. Hourly rate means I could book many of them anywhere in the world, actually, or in Australia. And therefore it was scalable. So I started a business called Mini Movers specifically to fund my lifestyle. Now, I can't help but stress that because I meet and talk to lots of young people starting businesses, and most of them are in love with their business. I'm not in love with my business. I'm in love with my lifestyle. And I make sure that my business does not become my lifestyle. And my business is just a machine to feed my lifestyle. And that's why I started Mini Movers 30 odd years ago. I sold it about 5 years ago. I flipped out of it. I saw more opportunities in the Philippines, and the business opportunities here are amazing. So that's kind of how I got to where I am today.
Interesting. So 35 years of running the moving company business, which is
Yeah.
insane, man. Wow. Um, I want to dispute that a little bit, because what about the Elon Musks? Because I'm, for example, I love what I get to do. It's amazing. And so I want to get into a little bit how you differentiate between lifestyle and loving what you do every day, as opposed to having to do something. And of course, there are always things you got to do, or, tedious, monotonous things that are a part of what you love to do and what you get to do. So what would you say to the Elon Musks out there, or I mean, you're trying to balance happiness with wealth building at the same time, if I'm not mistaken, not trying to sacrifice the former for the latter. How do you look at the dichotomy between building a lifestyle and running a business that you absolutely love?
Um, you love the people around you, you love what you're doing, but you also love yourself and love your lifestyle as well. And I think you've got to balance them all. I think you really do. Um, I've never really had a business I dislike. I've certainly had a lot of businesses I don't know how to do and don't know what I'm doing. For instance, the moving business was quite interesting because I'd never ever moved furniture. I don't know how to drive a truck. I didn't even know how to do the job. I worked on it as a business, so I always was working on it at a much higher level than what my people working in the business were working. Elon Musk's, he enjoys what he's doing. It's interesting, the similarities between myself and him, and I'm not comparing them that way, please, I don't do that. Everything I did was experimental. Everything I did was experimental. I did not sit down and build a long-term structured business plan and execute the plan. I just saw an opportunity, saw an idea, I dwelled over, and then I worked out that's where I want to be. So I would set a goal to where I want to be, and then I would head towards it using whatever path I could, with lots of experimenting. I've got this idea that you conceive ideas, you test them in an affordable way. If they work, you do them more. If they don't work, you don't do them anymore. And if they work, you duplicate and scale it up. And so it's easy to look at me and say, oh, look at that. He's had this business is successful and this business is successful. And these, I'm talking businesses where I have clearly earned more than $1 million a year income, have done for quite a number of years, and still do today. But I'm talking about that's sort of my benchmark for success. I'm talking about it's businesses, businesses are growing. When you look at that and you go, oh, well, isn't he successful? What you don't see is what's on the cutting room floor. You don't see the crazy ideas I came up with that didn't work. And they're not failures, by the way. They're just things I tried that didn't work. That's how I see them, and I just move on from them. The trick, of course, is not to just do one thing at a time. The trick is to do half a dozen things at a time, because not everything works. At one stage, they worked out that about 1 in 8 ideas that I have work. So I've got 7 failures sitting on the floor for the one that works.
But you only need the one that works, though, dude. So there's something to be said about that. I feel like that's something that a lot of entrepreneurs have in common, is the tendency and want and need to be testing new things. The whole shiny object syndrome. We're all chasing shiny objects. How do you balance that with the focus that it takes to be able to have the success that you've been able to accomplish over the life? It takes focus, man. So how do you balance the newness with the what's working?
Yeah, I do. As I get in, most of my businesses kind of do one thing and do that very well. And that's something I studied McDonald's a lot when I said that I went through a change of life. It was in my early 30s when I worked out that business 90 hours a week was crap. I needed to do something about it. So the business model that I studied was McDonald's. I read every book I could on the business. And it's about the business structure, by the way, not the product, it's just the business structure and the idea of systemizing and duplicating. And sorry, I'm not sure where this is leading. So that McDonald's principle, systemizing and duplicating, is what works going forward. And one thing I learned from that was do one thing and do it really well. And so every business I've had has been focused on doing one thing, and I'm very careful not to get caught doing tangents. Although, once again, what's on the cutting room floor was often me going, oh, let's try long distance moving. No, we only do short distance, direct order, or moving. Don't do anything else. Our equipment's set up that way. Our sales process is set up that way. We don't wander off over there because we can see a dollar over there. So I do focus on doing one thing really well, but I do believe that you should do 80% the same and 20% should always be experimental. Because, owning a business, I owned Australia's largest privately owned removal company for 38 years. We got up to 500 employees and 140 trucks, to give you an idea of scale of what I did just to give you an idea of how big the business has become. I've got a business in the Philippines today. I'm part of a business in the Philippines today that's got 1,600 staff. So just to give you an idea of scale. So the that's you know, that's the crux of the business. That's how you do it. You stay focused on the one thing. You do that one thing. You do try these little things when you see them along, but you try them in an affordable way, and don't try and disrupt your main business. 80% you same, 20% you experiment. Make sure you don't get wandering off. We all got AHDD or whatever they call it. We're very famous for having that, and we all wander off all over the place. We just got to. I've learned over time. My grey hair tells me to stay on the one thing, do the one thing, do it really well. Focus on the customer with the money. Focus on the customer with the money.
The question becomes then, how do you know what the 80% is? And there's testing that goes into that, but like, let's take your moving company for an example. It's fascinating, the story. How did you know that the short-term door-to-door moving, not long distance, short distance, house to house, would be the niche for you? And then how did you know that you weren't going to deviate from that for the 20% of testing? How'd you pick your niche like that?
I was pretty lucky there. This is going back in the mid-80s. I came across the local university ran a program where their MBA students required real life projects to do market research on. And they had a little open day. We used to go along and pitch your program. So that's what I did. I went along and pitched this idea that, listen, I've been looking at the moving company, moving industry, and I see all the different parts of it, but I don't know how it all works together. And I think there's an opportunity in local moving, just direct door-to-door local moving. And they went off and did a whole lot of market research and came back and gave me some very quick core numbers that really focused me. And 95% of Australians move less than 15 kilometres. The removal industry in Australia focuses on the other 5%, long distance interstate corporate moving. So my market was 95% of the moves. And yes, it was being underserviced terribly. There was a better way of doing it. But as soon as I got that 95%, then I knew, right, I'm just going to focus on that 15 kilometre, less than 15 kilometre local moving. That's where the money is. In the United States, U-Haul tapped that market. In Australia, because of a licensing with truck issue, they couldn't do the same. So that was the same market that U-Haul tapped in the USA, but with a different product. And that market research got me focused, and that's how I managed to sit down and do that. Similar today with what I'm doing in the Philippines. We're doing with one of my businesses. I've got seven businesses today that I fund or own significant shareholdings in and derive an income out of. But the big one is Short 360 with the 1,600 staff. We provide the office capability for people to build teams here. So if you want to build a team with Filipinos, we provide all the office infrastructure, the employment infrastructure, all the legal infrastructure that you don't need to go through, so you can develop your own team in your own space and grow it out. And teams are the way you drive things forward. And we believe that you're still going to be in an office situation. We're seeing a huge difference with home-based is nowhere near as productive as office-based. So we're very focused on providing that office space. We do that one thing, we do it very well. Our target is SMEs. We know exactly where it is, small, medium businesses, not the big corporate businesses. It's not our target at all. And so each business I've got is very focused on its little niche, and you just stay in that niche because that's where the golden nugget is. That's where the money is. That's where the customer with the money is.
Right. It's fair enough. I mean, it sounds like you've done that exactly. The question is, how do you know what niche to go into? Because like you said, you got to find the 80% that's going to be the golden goose so that you can spend the other 20% testing. But 80% to stay focused on and commit 35 years to, for example. So that's a big decision. So let's say somebody's running an agency or a consulting business. How do you know what niche to really grab onto for that 80%?
I've got some crazy ideas in this area. Okay. Number one is all my successful businesses, I knew nothing about how they work when I went into them. And that's been a massive advantage, not a disadvantage, because it
Interesting.
meant I could do them with an open slat and had no idea. So I used common sense to come up with a different way of doing it. And
Right.
I discovered when you go into something that you know what you're doing, you're just going to do it the same way everybody else does it, and you're going to be the same. Having said that, my successful businesses have all been existing industries, and I've gone in and done it better than what it's being done. Every time I've tried to develop new, and I had to go at SaaS and all those things at different times, every time I've tried to develop something new, it's been a failure. I've
Hmm.
never been able to push a completely new type of product into the market. I've only been successful at going into an existing industry and giving it that twist. Having said all that, if you understand the trends and what's happening around you, and the big one right now, of course, is AI,
Oh
naturally.
yeah.
If you understand the trends in the market, and we're still, disposable incomes in the West are still going up and up, and we're still paying money for experiences and doing a lot of things that our families never did in the past. They understand the trends. I see opportunities absolutely everywhere because of these changes. So AI has opened the door to a massive number of opportunities. Opportunities aren't what's in short supply. What's in short supply is the entrepreneurial ability.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's very, you understand what I do is I hunt for a potential business partners. When I find somebody who's very capable, I believe is capable of driving and growing a business, then I go into partnership with them. And generally speaking, what we do, the product we come up with comes afterwards. It's harder for me to find the person than it is the
Interesting.
product.
Hmm.
I, I can just about name every business industry out there and show you a better way of doing it. And that's the opportunity right there. Opportunities everywhere. The ability to drive and grow a business, that grunt, that entrepreneurial do it thing is what's missing. And that's
Right.
where the opportunity.
Especially now with AI. I mean, there are opportunities galore with every industry, within the niches within every industry. It's exciting as all hell, man. I fucking love AI. Don't get me wrong. When it comes down to it, how do you know what? Because you talked about going to a partner first of all, and then basing the business afterwards. Where are
Mhm.
some of the places that you found these partnerships, the most lucrative ones that have changed everything because of this one relationship?
I actually run a business learning tour in the Philippines called Mike's Business Tours. And I've
Mm,
been running it for about 10 years now. And I've had nearly 600 Western business owners come to the Philippines. We spend 2 to 3 days with them, and we go and visit a whole lot of different businesses here. And we look and just across the board from BPO, which is business processing outsourcing, to the old call center industry to manufacturing. We cover everything. We go around and visit all these different businesses, and we talk about the business models and what's happening, and out of that I meet people, and often I find my little entrepreneurs hanging around in that group there. I network a lot, and fairly well known in Australia in business circles because of my past as well. So that's where they are. The tour is all about learning business from a practical point of view. And like I said, I've had 600 business on tour. You won't find one person who says it wasn't immense value to them. It doesn't matter where it's at, it is immense value. I share my knowledge in there as well. I'm very big on building teams and getting teams to work together. The success of all businesses, our ability now to hover above it and to get that team to function properly and work together and all row in the one direction. That's really important. You understand how to do those skills to grow your business. So
right, and it starts at
that's
the top with the partnership that you're able to like, formulate and facilitate, and then be able to grow from the two of you, or the four of you, or
yeah.
whatever it might be. What are some of the personality traits that you look for, and how do you go about learning that they have them? How do you test that?
Ah, look, it's difficult.
Yeah.
It's a really interesting topic over a glass of red wine, I can assure you. With respect to my business partners, and we all love each other dearly and we get on very well. The crazier you are, probably the more chance that you're going to be better in business. Um,
Yeah, it works
the
like that. Eh? Look at the Steve Jobs, Elon Musk's, man. Yeah, no kidding.
I like you got chucked out of school. I got chucked out of school and when I was 14, and so because the teachers were wrong, you know. So when the teachers were wrong, I told them they were wrong, and they kept using this word disruptive, and I had no idea what the hell that word meant. I just know they were wrong, and I was telling them they were wrong. And so one day I was invited to leave school with my father, and so I left school, and next day I became an apprentice electrician and did an apprenticeship as an electrician. But that built me to what I am now. But that, seeing the world slightly different and being a little bit disruptive and challenging things is probably a key point that's going to help you become successful. You get in. The obedient ones that think that they can build a long-term business plan and then execute the plan and just roll it out, that's clearly they seem to suffer and fall behind. I can go back to my businesses, the other businesses that I've had where I've employed CEOs to run it. This whole idea of business partners has only been in the last 12 years that I've done this. Originally, I owned everything myself. I was sole prop, very keen to make it all mine and employ people to run it. And I've got a history of probably failures in employing the wrong people to run these businesses. That's outsiders. Bringing high-level outsiders in from the outside never worked for me. What did work though was finding people inside the business with the people skills that are needed, and then teaching them how to run a business and letting them run it. So Mini Movers today is run by a guy who came through the trucks, came up through the system, did everything, and I famously put him into that business about 14 years ago and into the top of it, and he's been doing a great job. We put in mentors beside him to teach him. We taught him everything on how to run a business in a business that he already knew backwards and forwards and how it all worked, and that worked much better. So it's just so if you're an obedient follower of systems and processes, you're not probably going to make it very well as an entrepreneur. You're probably got to be a bit more zigzaggy in life and crazy and just do things.
Right.
Yeah.
See what happens. That mentality of I'm gonna see what happens and then and adjust accordingly, as opposed to too much planning. I mean, I've succumbed to the too much planning. I was in a mentorship I learned a shit ton from, but I was in this paralysis where I was in this planning. This is going to be this beautiful flywheel that all made sense logically, but the implementation was missing. And then when I went to go implement it, I found out it was too fucking hard to get the flywheel to start spinning because to get it going. And so too much planning.
Kyle,
I like to get right into it now. Simplicity, I
the
find
point is
a lot
it's
better.
not planning. The point is it's not planning, it's guessing. They
True.
guess.
It's an interesting point.
You
Yeah.
They come to me now, and they've got this beautiful big business plan, and the whole lot's a guess, you know. And like I sit on a lot of boards, and historically I've always sat on a lot of boards, and my favorite trick every year was you'd sit on the board and the CFO would come into the board meeting and say, this is next year's budget. And by the way, none of my businesses have got budgets. We benchmark what we did last year, and we want to improve each part of it. So we benchmark a whole lot of KPIs, and then we try and improve them next year. We don't guess. We know what worked, and we want to be better. So the CFOs would come into the board meeting and say, this is next year's budget now. Our turnover is going to increase by 12%, blah, 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 blah. And so I'd sit there very quietly and go, and where did you get the 12% from? And they'd ignore me. And where did you get the 12% from? And in the end, they'd confess that, yes, that came out of their butt. Therefore, every other number up there came from exactly the same place. They're guessing.
Yeah.
It doesn't work if you guess. Only deal with what you know.
So what are the KPIs you look for? Okay. I like how you're talking about segmenting the business, splitting it up and looking at each and tracking, first of all, and looking at the data and being able to grow based on what you know, as opposed to what you're guessing might happen. What are the KPIs you look for? And then how does that process actually unfold?
An amazing mentor sat me down many, many years ago and taught me that there are two types of accounting out there. There's compliance accounting and there's management accounting. Compliance accounting is what 90% of accountants do. Compliance accounting is all about counting numbers and filling out government forms for tax and stuff like that. That's compliance accounting. Management accountings count widgets and divide them by the money. So we would have X number of trucks, we would have X number of workers, we would have X number of charge hours, and we would divide it all in. I could tell you in Mini Movers, I could tell you how much each week live off the system, I could tell you how much per hour we got on average this week, how much it was the same week last year, how much last year was, and 3 or 4 benchmarks back. So we had all these individual KPIs were a combination of widgets divided by money. So I knew that we charged 2,000 hours last week. We had 2,800 work hours that we paid the staff. I know that the staff cost me $48.31 on average per hour. I knew exactly what it was the week before and the same week last. So we used to go this week, last week, and the same week last year. Those 3 numbers were there. So we was always trying to improve each one. You know, the cost per hour, the income per hour, everything was per hour because we sold an hour. The unit we sold was 1 hour. And so it's all about management accounting. You find a good management accountant, and he will do. It's a lot easier today than it used to be because you guys can use dashboards now. So with computerization and dashboards, you can have live numbers there. So it's all about management accounting. It's all about cost per widget, cost per unit, whatever unit you're selling, and then benchmarking that like this. It can be done monthly. You could do the month we've just had, the month before, and the same month last year, and then graph it, and you'd watch the graphs. And the other thing they used to do to me, because I'm kind of financially illiterate, is they used to put traffic lights on them as well. So green was good, yellow was have a look at this, and red, you've been a bad boy, you better fix this fast, okay? So I don't really read numbers very well, unfortunately. I don't think many entrepreneurs do read numbers very well. So the traffic lights used to work for me. Put it in color.
No shit. And so when it comes to, how do you know when is the time to hire a management accountant as opposed to doing it yourself, you know, because there's a lot of tracking that goes into that. And then there's the situation of figuring out what is working within each KPI, each metric that you're tracking, what actually made the difference, because you could have changed 6 things over the last year. What is the one thing? And then like the weekly tracking is really what helps you track what's working on an individualized basis. But how do you know when to go about hiring a management accountant, for example? At what stage in the business do you do that? Hey, I hope you're enjoying the podcast, and I want to let you know that I've got a free book that you can get if you want to tap into more of these resources, and you can get that for free at kylesbook.com. Back to the podcast.
I've never worked in any of my businesses in a big way. So with the moving business, I did do sales at the start.
Yeah.
So only for probably the first 3 to 6 months, I did sales, where I actually sat on the phone and sold the product. But I never went out and worked them. So I've always had other people doing the day-to-day grind, the money-making bit was always somebody else doing that, employed to do that. There are always employees to do that. So I had the advantage of sitting on top of it. Look, it's a bootstrapping curve, and it's just to go without till you can afford, and when you can afford, do it. So, you know, typically these businesses would make very little profit in the first probably 2, 3, 4, 5 years. And then suddenly the profit would zoom straight up because you've got past that need of feeding the surplus cash back into the business to grow it to the next level.
Right.
And,
I mean, today we've got a huge advantage over you in that time period, because right now I've got an AI agency, for example. I spend 0 hours of my time on the AI agency. The AI runs it all for me. It's freaking great. I keep my computers running. The AI does its thing, gets them clients. I get clients automatically with the same program that we're using to get our clients. It's a win-win-win. It's freaking awesome. And so 0 employees except for the secretary managing the customer service and all that. Very low cost in the Philippines, actually. So 0 employment costs. The AI is very inexpensive to start leveraging once you have the initial investments to have the AI up and running. And now it just soars on its own. So I don't need to have the 3 or 4 or 5 years of building that up so that you keep putting the cash back in. Now it's all profit, baby. I mean, it's all profit from the get-go, because we don't have to have the employees to suck up the cash, because now the employees are the AIs that are out there doing the AI agents, I call them, that are out there doing their thing, making people money. money and making me money. And so huge advantage that we have as opposed to the way that you had to do it back in the day. What are some ways that, and I want you to touch on that. What do you think about that? And then what are
All
some ways
right.
of using AI?
Okay, so with my grey hair, I can tell you that major changes are not new. They've been happening all the time, you know. And we'll go back and talk about the motor car in a minute. But you know, I saw this with computers. You know, everything was manual when I started. I borrowed money from the bank to buy a golf ball typewriter. You know what was amazing about golf ball typewriters? They could type back 6 or 7 characters and correct it and make it disappear, and you could carry on typing. That was amazing. But I borrowed money from the bank to buy one of those things. They were expensive. The same happened with when computers came along. So all of these changes in the last 50 years probably all I've been doing is speeding everything up. And AI is a little bit different than that, but it's still the same as that. It's speeding up the processes. So when I started in business, when I wanted to communicate, I scribbled a letter out on a bit of paper. My scribble's horrible. Then somebody in my office would then type that into a typewriter. We would stick it in an envelope and mail it to wherever we want. That's how we communicated. There wasn't any other way. And telephone or voice. And that was it. And to go from where we are to where we are today has been progressive. And as a business owner, you've got to work out and judge when you jump on it, which one's real, which one's not real. And we can jump on the wrong things. Go back to the year 2000 and look at 2YK. We can believe and go down the wrong path with wrong things. Be careful. There are some things that peter out and some things don't. But AI is obviously not. But then again, you've got to wait for it to get to a certain level before you decide this is where I've got to be on. And you've got to make sure no competitor comes over the top of you. I'm very good at watching all those trends. I'm watching that very, very carefully. Let's go back and just talk about the motor car. I want to talk about the motor car a little bit. So back in 1908, Henry Ford didn't invent the motor car. He was like our friend from Tesla. He took an invention that was already there, but he developed a very efficient way of manufacturing it to make it a lot cheaper and affordable for people. And at the time, everybody was focused on the motor car and the Ford, and all the horse owners in the world, and the whole world was all about horse and buggies and horses. They all got together worldwide. They asked the government to protect them. All governments passed legislation to protect them from the threat of the motor car, because the motor car was going to take all the jobs away from the horse and cart industry. It was terrible, absolutely going to decimate the whole economy, this new thing called a motor car. And it's true, and they did that. And certainly over an 18-year period or 15-year period, the horse and cart industry completely disappeared and the motor car took over. What was interesting was, while that noise was going on with politicians and arguing over about what are we going to do, how do we stop it, etc., the actual business opportunities from the motor car were not right in front of everybody. The business opportunities were to get into the oil and gas industry. They needed petrol. They needed gasoline stations to sell it. They needed better roads. Roads needed to be improved. We needed insurance companies because they started running into each other. There were a whole lot of business opportunities that grew out of the motor car, which everybody at the time, or the vast majority of people at the time, did not see, because they were so focused on the negative side of it, on what's happening. So I'm watching this with AI. I'm watching all this noise out there and all this negativity and all this stuff in there and people arguing this. And in the meantime, the real opportunity is probably not there. It's in what is it going to do? What's it really going to do at the end? And where's the opportunity out of it? And I think that's a good way of looking at AI when it's coming in now. If you're in the horse and cart industry, you saw the motor car as a threat, and that seeing it as a threat clouded your judgment, limited your judgment, so you couldn't really see what was going to be on the other side of the curve.
Yeah. So what do you do? So you're talking about looking at the byproducts of it, as opposed to, because what comes to mind is, instead of fuel, instead of the oil and gas industry, you're talking about the computing industry. And then there's the because like that's the fuel of the AI in this analogy, right? And then there are all kinds of opportunities that branch off of that. For example, using it to run an agency for you, using it for customer service, for building websites, all kinds of things that you can use the technology for. Where does your mind go in terms of what's going to happen over the next 5-10 years? Where are all the opportunities going to be in your mind?
I think you've got to sit back and get away from the emotion of it and try and see what it looks like afterwards. You really do.
Mm.
Yeah, the other story that helps with is during the gold rush, we were we were the silly buggers that dug the holes looking for the gold while the Chinese stood there and sold us the shovels. And who made the most money of the gold rush? The ones that sold the shovels. And I think that's another story you need to look at and think through. I think you've got to get the emotion out of it, and you've got to try and work out what it's going to do. What I'm seeing from it right now is going to dramatically speed up the whole business process. Now, I don't believe it's going to, yes, it will. I don't want to get involved in killing jobs, because jobs are evolving and changing all the time, always have done, always will do. And every time we've had a wave take certain jobs away, what's followed it has been more, it's been beneficial, because the entrepreneurs get it and create something. In the mid-80s, I created a large moving company that employed 500 young people moving furniture. Before I came along, there was a manufacturing industry in Australia, and we had all these manufacturers. But the Chinese flooded the world in the mid-80s with cheap manufacturing. The manufacturing companies closed down. I saw the opportunity of human capital being able to be moved over into the service sector. I saw the growth of the service sector. I could see that the disposable incomes were going up, and that people would pay for somebody for a service in a house rather than do it themselves, and I saw that. I understood all those trends. So when I went into the moving industry, those trends I was aware of, I could see the opportunity, right? So coming back to where we were, if we need to understand the trends that are happening out there and what could possibly be afterwards. And I will come back and say again and again and again, I've only made really good money out of going into an existing industry, but doing it better. And I think AI has that huge opportunity. I think you could go into an existing industry right now and absolutely trash it with AI and do it a lot better and be a leader, as opposed to being focused, as so many of you young people are, sorry about this, on this new thing. We're going to create this whole new thing. The problem is that you have to build and create it before you work out if somebody's going to buy it. And man, have I seen some crashes in that area.
No kidding. Me too, man. My dad in particular spent $100,000 on molding and direct injection, getting all of the things for his invention, but never tested to see if people would buy the damn thing before he built it. You know what I mean? And the same thing can be.
They come to me. I'm getting 2 and 3 propositions a week of Mike, invest in this and invest in this. And you sit down and they go on and on about the wonderful opportunity, how it's going to change everything. And you sit there quiet and say, how do I know someone's going to buy it?
How many have you sold? Yeah. Sorry? Yeah. That's funny.
And no, guys, please, if you're listening to this podcast, build it and thou shalt come does not work, okay? Trust me, it does not work.
Yeah, sell it, make sure there's market demand for it, and then build it afterwards. It goes for everything. Courses. I mean, when you say the shovel sellers, what I think of when you say that is the people who sell information to how to use something. They're selling the shovels instead of selling the actual AI itself.
Right.
What are some other trends that you're seeing? Because you got a lot of experience in tracking these trends over a long period of time. Where do you see the opportunity being specifically? Give us a few examples in terms of what you see AI being able to revolutionize in terms of immediate profit right now.
It's interesting. I'm living in a third world country now. I've lived here for 12 years, and it's a different psychic at all, the whole thing. But what I'm seeing here, and I'm also seeing worldwide, is there's a massive trend to lifestyle. COVID changed the way people think about jobs. And right now we're going through a period where nobody wants to wash the dishes anymore. They all want some job up there, and they want to just sit at home and work and all the rest of it. And that's going to go where it goes. I don't know if that's sustainable in the long term. I'm not sure that it is. But what I do see is that disposable incomes are increasing worldwide. And as they will, you go up through the hierarchy and you get to wanting to spend money on experiences and having a lot of people my age now have got surplus money, and they just can buy things that never couldn't, the previous generation couldn't dream of. So I see that as increasing everywhere. I think you've got to understand that the high wages that we experience in Australia, Canada, USA, and what we call the Western world is actually only a small part of the whole world. That these low wages that we have in the Philippines, the average wage in the Philippines is about $100 a week for somebody with a university degree who speaks good English and really knows their skill quite well. It's still only about $100 a week. And that's a long way to go to where we are, a long way. These lifestyles are increasing here as well. Wages are increasing here and buying stuff is increasing. And therefore, there's massive opportunities in that. You know, my big business, or my previous business, of course, was Mini Movers Moving Business. My grandmother, who was pretty wealthy in her day, she would have rotated, she'd be revolving in her grave if she knew that I paid somebody to wash the car, to paint the house, or they were all things that generation all did themselves, you see. And if you look at it carefully, slowly, but you're getting more and more and more. I think AI is going to accelerate this. I think there's going to be a lot of things you can do for people to improve their lifestyle, to improve their experiences, because their disposable incomes are going up and their time commitments going more to themselves. I think that's going to continue on. I think it's going to accelerate. I think you're going to find the third world countries are going to zoom up the path that we did as well.
So tactically and tangibly speaking, what are some opportunities that evolve out of those trends that you're noticing right now?
Don't know. I haven't really looked at a lot of them that carefully. But they're all fundamental. I'm going to tell you that most of them are going to be really fundamental right in front of your nose. And I'll repeat again, they're not some new invention. They're not something that's, you know, it's going to be something existing that can be done so much easier using AI. And if you get into that part of the market, you'll own that part of the market.
There's something.
The globalization trends, another big one, because I'm sitting in the middle of globalization here. So with the Philippines, it's all about globalization. We've got about 1.75 million Filipinos working for businesses overseas from a computer. So, and that's zooming up because not so much for money nowadays. It was when I started 10 years ago, it was all about low wages. Now it's about availability. You know, typical client for us would be a construction company in the USA. They're a large construction company building big buildings everywhere. They've got a big office building and they've got architects and engineers and all the different colored engineers, civil engineers, electrical engineers, plumbing and all those sort of things. Got all those people in there working. All that stuff in that office can be done in the Philippines for about 70% lower in cost. Now, the 70% lower in cost, everybody goes, oh yeah, I got that. What you don't get now is that we've got a massive oversupply of all those skills here, and you can't even get them in the USA now, or in the Western world now. You can't get them. So now they're coming to me and going, oh wow, I could get all these people here. That's amazing. I can't get them at all. I can't find them. And if I do find them, they demand more money and want to work from home. And I don't want that. I want them in an office. So we're seeing massive surging right now, all those skills coming into here and building it around the office structure that we do. So that's a huge opportunity.
Well, absolutely. And I'm tapping into that too. What I find is, let's say Upwork, for example, that's the platform that I use to hire Filipinos a lot of the time. And this kind of is contradictory towards what your business does. Because what I'm wondering is, how do you go about hiring somebody? Because it's difficult, man. It's so freaking hard. Even hiring an assistant that's able to do things efficiently. For example, I interviewed 50 fucking people, and it took me a long time to find somebody who was able to do just simple computer tasks efficiently. Being able to use the computer the way that I do, more or less, you know, fast, not taking 10 years, being able to Control C to copy instead of right click to copy. Little things like that make all the difference if you're doing it all day long. And so like major time difference. So what are some ways that we can go about finding the right talent? Because it's exactly what you do. And so we'll use Upwork as an example, and then we'll get into your company too, because I'm curious what the differences are in office like that. How do we find employees?
I believe in testing them.
Yeah.
I think you take a role
Mm-hmm.
and you look at the very core competencies of the role, the very core competencies of the role. Say, for instance, I want a personal assistant. So with a personal assistant, I need somebody that can handle 10 things at the same time, all going in different directions,
Yeah.
that can handle somebody who thinks they're very important to somebody who doesn't think so, and all wanting to talk to Mike, etc. So the people skills that go with that, they've got to have particularly strong people skills and organizational skills. And certainly they've got to have the ability to write perfect English.
Yeah.
So what I did, and I've done this before, is I came up with a test that says, I own a moving company, and this customer, Mr. So and so, and I swear in the thing because I swear naturally. So I swear in the instructions that she's in bloody nuisance, and she's calling us up and she's saying our guys did this and this and this and this. Write her a letter so she doesn't bug us anymore.
Hmm.
Put the Word document, name the Word document with your surname, and email it to this Gmail account.
Hmm.
And then I go to the market hard, far, and as wide as I can. I use all the free portals, the Upwork, and I use all the other places to go right out to the market as far as I can. I hire another little PA to watch the Gmail account as they're coming in, and just the stuff that's rubbish, just delete it out, or thank them and then delete it out, and just bring it down to a short list of the 10 best ones, and just give me the 10 best ones after 1 week.
Hmm.
And then I just letters. And once I've read the letters, I understand the person and their basic core skills.
Hmm.
And then that's proven that they can do the job. And then I just interview them to see if they fit in with me.
Love that. Yeah. Hmm.
So test to prove that they can do the job, and interview them for fit in with your company. You should not be you should not be interviewing anybody that you don't already know is quite capable of doing the job.
Yeah, see, that's the mistake that I made, man, because I made the mistake of interviewing. It took a shit ton of time. It took like a week of my time because I was desperate to find a VA ASAP because I got my emails were flooded. Things were a mess. I needed some help with specific tasks. And I interviewed them all myself, and I was running through tests. For example, I wanted them to share their screen and show me how they would go about making a YouTube thumbnail, for example. Because for me, I could do it in less than 2 minutes, and it's good enough. And so that's what I told them. I want it to be good enough, not perfect. Let's see how fast you can go about doing it, because I'm testing to see how they can use the computer, and if they put thought into it, as opposed to just, for example, copying the YouTube video title into the thumbnail, where it's too much text, doesn't look good. I wanted to see if they could think about it as well. And by the end of the 50, it was very difficult to find somebody who was able to use the computer and have the critical thinking necessary. And so I love your approach to that. You're automating it by giving them a task to do that. Sense the email. You don't have to watch their screen, do anything like that. No time on your behalf. And then you interview the
That's right.
people who you know are already qualified for it. Brilliant, man. Seriously.
You can understand the core of the role, though. Look, VAs. I've stopped getting involved in the employment of VAs probably 5-10 years ago, or 5 years ago. I stopped it altogether. We don't do VAs anymore, really, as such. We're now more interested in the high level skills, the actual lawyers, accountants,
Yes, yeah.
engineers, architects. All those skills are really, that's where the real money is up there. VAs, for the smaller businesses, are very hard. And it's not just, the reason it's hard is all of you have got a different way you do each thing, and it's your way because you built it that way, and it's unique. So you have to sit back and work out what is the core and be prepared to teach them the rest. And if you're not prepared to teach them, it's not going to work. So I see so many people come up, hire a Filipino, and then don't really tell them exactly what to do. Don't really onboard them properly. Don't try and train them at all. And then 3 months later, said that was bloody useless, terrible. And I go, well, you didn't give it a shot. If you hired somebody from your hometown and did them exactly the same way, hardly talked to them, didn't show them what to do, you'd have exactly the same result, no different. It's got nothing to do with the Philippines. It's got to do with you as an employer bringing them in and understanding that you can only bring them in with the core skills at that level. At VA level, it can only be the core skills. The rest you've got to teach. It's different with accountants. It's different with the professions. Professions should come in. They should know how to use your local tax platforms. They should know how to use all the words, etc. I've got that. But down, if you kind of call it the bottom end of town, the VAs is just a really difficult thing because each one of them is quite individual in the way you do it.
And inefficient, but it's hard to find. Yeah. Let's get into your company, because you've got a different approach. No working from home, it's from the office. And you said something interesting earlier, and this is fascinating to me. You said it's possibly not sustainable for people to be working from home in the future because you find that it's nowhere near as productive as the person who's working in the office. Why do you say that? I disagree with that. I mean, you need to be self-driven, but I disagree.
Yeah.
So why do you say that?
We're probably, I don't know what we've got, probably about 180 clients, maybe a bit more. And I think only 2 clients have decided to go permanently down the track of work from home. Every single client went to work from home, tried work from home, and all of them have pulled back into the office. Of the 1,600 staff that we've got about 130 that are work from home, and they were hired during COVID. They're very high-end people, they're very special people that are in the slot, and the client doesn't want to lose them. Understand, I don't have a lot to do with what the client does with the people. We just provide infrastructure. So I'm watching clients and I'm talking to the clients, and all of them are saying the same. It's just so much difference. So there's a thing called tacit knowledge that exists inside businesses. So the business system that we are taught in university, or they teach in university, this whole idea of build a business plan, execute the business plan, etc., etc., take a capital, invest the capital, get a return on the capital. That's all very viable, necessary with large corporate businesses that run very structured processes. Small, medium enterprises don't have structured processes anywhere near the same. Small, medium enterprises want multi-skilled people that can do all sorts of different jobs at the same time as you grow up. We all do. It's the same thing. I don't know where I'm going with this. I'm just with work, as you have this multi-skill and everything's changing and growing, what gets changed in the lunchroom is very, very important. I know you've got some structures and processes, but they're not exact. Everybody, when something goes wrong, it's shared in the lunchroom and everybody knows wrong. And we all know not to do that because it went wrong. And that sharing in the lunchroom doesn't really occur when you've got them working from home. If you've got one person working from home, it works brilliantly. But when you get over 5 and you get 10, 20, 30, 40, 50,
interesting,
then it becomes a serious problem and it won't work because that tacit knowledge is not developing. That sharing of the informal information inside the business that really run the business doesn't work. Now, to a small growing business, that's absolutely vital. That's where I came back to when I said I'm all about building teams. My businesses have been very successful because I managed to build an amazing team that works together, all rows together. And I've found that's office space has to do that. And our clients have found office space to want to do it.
Do you see a solution for that? Do you do you see a solution for that? The way I see the future working is cities expanding to outer regions because of lack of needing to go into the city center. But the tacit knowledge that you say is interesting. The whole lunch hour conversation, right? Do you see a solution to have that the tacit knowledge within a digital?
I know lots of people that are trying to come up with a solution for it. We are all very well, but we can see it. There may well be a solution. But at the moment, if you're on a high growth business and ever changing business and things are changing, office space is way, way more productive, seriously productive. Office space people cost you more because you've got office infrastructure and that cost. It's got to be in there somewhere. They do cost more, but they're way, way more productive. And that's what we're seeing at the moment. And the other thing I will say this, that the lower down the skill level, the more they have to be in office, the higher they are, the less likely they're going to be in office. For instance, if you want a full stack dev who's an absolute expert in some particular software, and I mean, seriously high end, really, really leading expert, your chances of finding one of them within 8 kilometres where your office are is pretty bloody remote anyway. So
Yeah.
therefore, the world becomes your oyster. Therefore, you are going to do work from home, and there's no doubt about that. And you'll try and hybrid them and bring them in if you can. Hybrid doesn't make any sense, by the way, as a business model. Hybrid makes no sense. It doesn't make any sense to be holding office space and having work from home. That just doesn't. You're lowering the productivity with work from home by still holding the overheads of office space. That doesn't make any sense.
Right. Maybe
Okay.
you could work out a joint venture where you're doing Tuesdays and Thursdays or in office, and then you got another company that does Mondays and Wednesdays and Fridays, and then they take the office space during those days. Maybe you can work that. So there are creative solutions to the hybrid model. But I get what you're saying. It's interesting, man. I'm curious where the market's going to go in terms of maybe 10, 20 years from now. Globalization, obviously, being able to have work from home opportunities without having the tacit knowledge loss. I'm curious, man. Maybe VR will be the solution to that. Who knows? Still having those those lunch office experiences. It's an interesting way of putting that, man. So
It could be something like that.
yeah.
I think it's going to come there. There's definitely a change in that area, but we're still not there at the moment with work from home. Office space is clearly working a lot better right now, and remembering you need to understand tacit knowledge, TACTIT, I think it is. You put it in Mr. Google, you'll see it. There's a whole subject on it. It's very, very important for your smaller businesses to survive. It's the informal way things are done inside the business, the informal sharing that makes your business work. For your business to work, I don't know who care who you are, you need a team of people rowing in one direction. You need a team, build a team. You need all the different skills to come together and work together. And so that's really important. And they should be incentivized as a team, not individually too. They shouldn't be individual incentives. You should have a team bonus, essentially like a profit sharing bonus, but in a team sense. If anybody wants to know about that, I actually have a little paper that I have on that. I'm happy to share that with anybody. Probably not enough time in this podcast to deal with team bonuses and how you get them all to row in one direction, but I'm more than happy to share my experiences with that.
How do they get in contact with you?
My name, mike@o'hagan.com.au. So
Perfect.
MIKE@o'hagan, OHAGAN.com.au is my email. And I respond to that very well. So that's the best way. And I spend most of my life on Zoom talking to people nowadays. So yes, I personally have been working from home since 2007. In 2007, I walked away from an office and never went back. So I've been swanning around the world working on Zoom from home. So it's not new to me. It was part of my goal to do that. I wanted to be able to travel and do whatever I wanted to do. And I still needed to be able to feed my businesses and do my board meetings and all that sort of thing. So I am practicing working from home. I just know to build a thorough team to get true efficiency in the company, you need to build them in an office situation.
And you've given some points in terms of that argument for sure. What's the company name that if somebody wants to go and hire an in-office team, what's the company name?
Shore 360, SHORE numbers 360. Shore360.com is the name of that business. I own several other businesses too. I own a business that does NetSuite and one that does realtor support, and I own a marketing business, digital marketing and website devs. Believe it or not, I'm involved in a business that buys and sells motor cars, and I've got my tour business. Mike's Business Tours is a really good way for you to boost your knowledge from where you are now and to see firsthand the opportunities. When you see what others are doing with the Filipinos and the offshoring opportunity, it changes you completely. Very rare for somebody to come on my tour that doesn't go back with a complete change of how they're going to focus their business. So for my tour, that's a good way of doing it as well.
Interesting. Okay. What's the tour? How do I find the tour?
Mike's Business Tours, plural. So Mike's Business Tours. Or just email me and we'll have a chat about it anyway, see how it fits into you before you come and have a look. But you fly in, at the moment, you fly in on a Sunday. We tour Monday and Tuesday, and you fly back either late Tuesday, early Wednesday. So it's very quick. It's like trying to drink from a fire hose. It's coming at you real fast. you'll get it, and you'll understand. And seeing firsthand what Filipinos are doing in other businesses is
Mm.
really does make you realize, gee, I never realized I could do that. Wow, that's an idea. I can incorporate that idea into what I'm doing. It's the only way I know teaching business, by the way. I think it's a much better way than any theory or anything else. I think too much business is taught the wrong way. Gut feeling, get out there and do it, try it, and don't bet the farm. Do not bet the farm. Cash flow profit, very important. Nothing wrong with cash flow profit.
Nothing wrong at all, baby. Mike, dude, it was an absolute pleasure, man. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom. Seriously. Anything else you want to add before we kick this off, brother? I mean, fascinating talk.
Good
Seriously.
point. No, it's good. I think, guys, if anybody wants to get into business, you got to change the way you think. You've probably been taught to be too obedient in the education system. I think you need to turn your back on that, and don't get involved in illegal stuff or stuff like that. But you just got to think outside the box and see it for what it really is, rather than what you think it is.
Michael Hagan, thank you so much for being here, my friend.
You're welcome. Thank you very much, Kyle.
All right. I hope you enjoyed that podcast episode. And if you want to get a free copy of my book, go to kylesbook.com and you can get a copy there. I'll talk with you soon.